If you have a question, that would be great. And if we can just try our best to keep our cameras on as well. What I will now do is go to our opening karakia. Whakataka taho ki te uru, whakataka taho ki te tonga, mea kia mā kina kiuta, kia mā taratara ki tai e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei moriora. Moving through to apologies, I've received an apology from Mia Whānau and Deputy Mayor Sadler Footer, and also Karapukatapu Dentis and Andrea Rutini. So I will move those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Mayor Guppy. All those in favour say aye. Those against, no. Declare that carried. We do have Councillor Tim Brown listed as an alternate to attend, but just to clarify, Kate, we're still waiting for him to join. Is that correct?
He has joined. His camera's just not on.
Okay, great. Well, welcome, Councillor Brown. If you could get your camera on, that would be great. We'll keep going. We've received no members of the public who wish to speak, so we'll go straight through to conflict of interest declarations. Item 4, any conflicts to declare? No? Okay. So we'll now move through to item 5, which is the Culture and Value for Money Improvement Plan. And this is a progress update on page 8 of the agenda. We have Pat, Nick, and Erin, who are going to speak to this item. Pat, I'll first off pass it to you, and then obviously if any of the team want to comment, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will, without any ado, pass over to Erin, who is the author of this report and the true subject matter expert. So, Erin, if you could turn on your camera, it'd be great.
Good afternoon, everyone. I did think I had my camera on, but it's obviously not working properly, so you might just have to listen to me. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I think this is our 3rd or 4th update on our Culture and Value for Money Improvement Plan. You'll see, we're really driving towards those improvements. The big lift now is in the balance of the quarters. I think the key, our key uplift areas, as we've talked to, is the Technology Systems Investment Program. The team we have accelerated that. It's resourced. It's in flight. You would have seen it potentially out in the market. Request for proposal. We've had a lot of strong engagement on that technology plan, and that's really core to us to lifting our organisational performance. Another area which I'm sure will be of great interest is our procurement and value for money, and which both Charles and Pat are here to answer any questions on today. You'll notice in our improvement plan we talked around taking stock after our initial 100% out to market or 100% commercial tension, to take stock and then evaluate how we went forward with the panels. While we have followed through with the value for money on maintaining that commercial tension in everything, we have not yet contemplating the return to the full panel arrangement, and you'll see that reflected in the partially achieved on the value for money plan, and that's more around we set ourselves a target of something. We've actually exceeded it in another way, but I understand there's some further comment maybe from Charles and Pat around the work that we're doing in that space.
Do you want to comment now on that, Charles, Pat?
I'll just reiterate that the Chief Executive set me a target on before I could return to utilising the newly deconstructed panel, that we must be able to clearly demonstrate to our clients that there's commercial tension, value for money, and we're a smart, savvy purchaser. That's the target was by about this time this year to start migrating back into the panel. But my advice has been that we stay where we are. We're getting really good value out of the market. New suppliers are being attracted to the region, and we want to keep exploring that before I make a recommendation to start utilising the panel more.
Pat, did you want to touch on anything with that? Anything further?
One of the things we have been doing is Charles has just been working on a piece of work with his team as to how much capital money we think we'll spend this year. Normally, we don't start doing detailed forecasts until the last quarter. This year, we're putting pressure on our team to come up with numbers by the end of the first quarter, and looking at how much money there is that could be left lying on the table, and how we could best utilise that. And one of the areas we have been looking at is pipe relays. And I might just get Charles just to fill in a bit more detail as to where we are with that piece of work, because it is sounding quite promising.
I think the councils and Wellington Water share the same concerns about some of our contractors, especially in the pipe renewal. One of the things that we've done is, on the back of our lower than ideal capital expenditure last year, this over the last month, the team have reforecast the capital program for this financial year. Our SOI target was to land between 75 and 90%, and our forecasting now indicates 80%. The main reason for this is that most of the projects are multi-year, so we're getting better at phasing. So therefore, if the expenditure is going to occur more in the next financial year, obviously that looks lower this financial year. What reason we're doing this so aggressively and so quickly is so that we can put in front of the council some options around bringing forward other items from outer years into this year. And primarily that for us would be some early design work, but bring forward renewal packages that would allow our contractors to have work that ensures that they survive in a good state when we're ready to grow with the new entity. Our investment advice is that we're sitting around 80%, but some councils will achieve higher. But we're now in the process now of preparing memos to give to each council to say these are the options that we see that would allow you to bring forward some renewals. And if that goes. If that's approved, we would need that turned around relatively quickly in order to be able to award contracts and achieve the spend. But we're confident that we can exceed 90% of the capital program this year.
Any questions on this particular topic? Councillor Conley, go for it.
I don't. It's just more an improvement plan, general question, if that's all right.
I just want to check if there's anything specific to what was just covered, and then we'll open up for any general questions of Erin. She may. I can't see any other hands, so yeah, go for it, Councillor Conley.
So my question is just in the cover paper, you under water services are affordable and provide value, you talk about the Alliance performance framework. So I was wondering if you could remind me what work the Alliance actually does. I seem to recall it was reactive maintenance, but if you could just clarify that for me. And how, I guess, the continued existence of the Alliance fits with our new strategy to create market tension and put as much out to contract or the open market as possible. And then if you could talk me through exactly how the Alliance performance framework works in terms of pain gain sharing and value performance metrics. And my other question for Erin, which you did somewhat touch on, was there's about 4 or 5 metrics in your table that have partially achieved. You touched on why one of them had partially achieved, and I can see for others that you said you hadn't done any work in this quarter, so that explains that, but there are others that I'm just wondering if you could provide a bit of commentary.
Through the chair, I could answer the first series of your questions, Ross. In regards to the Alliance, the scope of the Alliance now is maintenance and operation of the reticulated network and associated assets. The remit and the scope of the alliance maybe a year ago was much larger. We put a lot of CapEx through. We had some other teams in bed, but we've stripped it right down, and Fulton Hogan have been a willing participant in that, getting it match fit. So $40 million of CapEx that was spent with them is not spent with them. It is purely primarily OpEx. There is some reactive CapEx, renewal costs that go through there. So that's what they do. The performance framework is we'll be bringing that to the Water Committee soon. That's on our to-do list. That measures a suite of measures. Some of them are DIA ones, some of them are specific around the performance of the alliance. That framework informs the calculation of a performance incentive. We've just finished calculating that at the Alliance Leadership Board, and the decision was that it is not appropriate to pay any form of incentive this year. So even though technically I think it had made just the cusp of a performance incentive, the agreement of the leadership was that that's not appropriate, and it'll be zero. There is that performance incentive has a pain gain built into it. If they underperform, they can drop into a negative performance incentive. So that's not the usual way of introducing a pain gain into the alliance, but we introduced that this year because both Fulton Hogan and Wellington Water said it's incorrect to have an alliance without any form of pain gain sharing. So we introduced it where we could. The future of the alliance has still got about another 4 or 5 years to go. And the point there is both Fulton Hogan and Wellington Water are working in a very combined way to ensure that they have a product that they are proud of and that they can show value for money to other councils, and that we also have a product that we can stand in front of our councils and our owners and demonstrate value for money.
I missed the scope restatement. What is the scope?
The scope is maintenance and operation of the reticulated network, primarily.
The reason I asked about the scope was the usually you're sharing pain and gain where there is a risk that's hard to quantify or parameterize when you're going in. I'm not familiar with the risk profile associated with a reticulated network, but that surprises me a little that that's an appropriate scope of work for a pain gain risk framework.
Yeah, the alliance framework is set up a bit unusually for an alliance. It's not. There was a lot of things that at the time when it was negotiated that Wellington Water needed, and it's well recorded that we're dependent on them for their asset management system. So there is quite a lot bundled in there. So the alliance brings with it the asset management system, ability to do jobs. So there's more than, I guess it is a bit diminutive just to say that we only do the reticulated network. They bring some other capacities that we're dependent on. I think that most people now, I think it's well documented that the growth of the alliance in that scope started getting growing historically with Wellington Water, and it's had a very sharp correction. If you were to negotiate an alliance now, you would probably come up with a different agreement.
Councillor Brown.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I've got a couple of questions, but my first one is to follow up on Councillor Connolly's observations. I think, as I understand it, Mayor Whanau has asked if the pain gain sharing paper that went to the Wellington Water Board could also be sent to the panel members. So I'm wondering if we could actually have what the board saw circulated to the panel. So that's my first question. And it's just following on from something which I understand Mayor Whanau has asked for previously.
So I'll answer that. I think that's what Charles indicated, that we will be bringing that report and that back to the committee. That's certainly our intention.
Oh, good, thank
But
you.
I do need to emphasise that coming into Wellington Water, it's not an alliance in the classic sense. In fact, if I'd been here when it was established, we wouldn't have been calling it an alliance, because there was very little risk share. We have tried to retrofit it as much as possible, but the other discussion that we are having quite overtly with Fulton Hogan is about, perhaps, because roughly half the staff in that alliance are ours, are Wellington Waters, and the other half are Fulton Hogan's, is whether we don't split the city in half and take on responsibility for maintaining half each, and that way we would have the ability to continually benchmark ourselves in terms of cost and response times, etc. But one of the things we need to correct is a little bit of an imbalance in who's got the senior staff, and we don't have enough of them at the moment to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. But that is what we're thinking about, and Fulton Hogan are quite supportive of that approach as well. So we're at a much better place than we were, but is that where we want to stop? No, I don't think so.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I think we all agree that you are going definitely in the right direction and doing it as well as you possibly can, given the resources. So, good on you, I'd say. The other is just a couple of others. So one is 3.1a. This is about the asset management plan. And I just wonder if you could actually just give us a tiny bit of elaboration about what the asset management plan looks like today before these IT improvements are in place, and where you see it actually evolving to over the, especially over the next sort of, as we evolve into Metro Water.
So perhaps I'll have first crack at that. So this year, when I arrived, we prepared our first asset management plan as an organisation. We had to bring in consultants to help us with that work, and that was the basis of the water service delivery plan. We were able to get that to Dougal and his team, and that's then formed the basis. Up till then, if we wanted to produce something that looked like an asset management plan, we had to give you about 60 documents all in a pile, and you had to dive your way through them. So it's a first crack at it, but until we get our own asset management system linked to a finance system, it's not flash what we do at the moment. It's quite frustrating that for an organisation our size and the scale of assets we manage that we don't compare favourably, I'd say, with half the councils in New Zealand in terms of sophistication of our IT systems. Incredibly reliant on spreadsheets and reliant on asset management systems that Fulton Hogan let us use and Veolia let us use. So it's not slick at all. But one of the things we're also talking about is now that we've got a more logical structure for the organisation, there's an asset management framework that sees information flowing from our operations teams through the asset management system to our strategy and planning team, them pulling together work plans, work priorities, doing business cases and detailed scoping to then pass on to our capital projects team, our capital delivery teams, and then our capital delivery teams formally handing those back to our operations team. We haven't had those sorts of systems. We're trying to establish them quite quickly now. We have been so reliant on consultants to help us write the scope of our work that has just, we've lost that ability to be a smart purchaser. We're getting it back and moving quite quickly on it. So that's where we are at the moment. But until we get those asset management systems linked to finance systems, we're always going to be a little bit hand to mouth. And that's what Aaron was talking about. The RFP is out there now, and we're hoping that we can land those can land sometime as Metro Water has been established. And that'll make a huge difference to the way the organisation runs.
Thanks, Pat. That's a great answer. Thank you. My last question is on point 4.3a. This is the disclosure speak up comments. I think we've previously, as I understand it, asked if you could be explicit about this on your website, and so it's a request if you could put your speak up policy on the website so that everyone could actually read it.
Through
Yes,
you, Chair. Thank you. Yes, we are, and that's part of the work that our wonderful comms team are doing at the moment around also our Commerce Commission disclosures. So that watch this space very soon.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Now, just checking, Councillor Connolly, I know you did also ask Erin, I think maybe a question. I just want to make sure that was addressed.
Yeah, so that was just around, there are 6 items that are partially achieved in her table. Some of them, it's obvious why, but others, it's not so clear. So I wondered if she could just comment on those.
Okay, so absolutely, through you, Chair. The improved wastewater treatment plant compliance, my sense is that's pretty well understood through the issues that we've had. We are tracking with compliance on some of those plants and others not so much. But I know there is a real focus for the organisation on lifting the compliance for those treatment plants. The management committee.
Just on that though, once again, sorry, there's a bit of a difference between process and outcomes, and this is tracking the process that you guys are going through rather than the actual compliance of those plants. So what actions do you have in terms of achieving compliance that you have only partially achieved?
So the action was to provide assurance that the projects are on track with that compliance. And we're talking specifically in this comment that 2 of the 4 metropolitan plants are achieving compliance. While Moa Point and Seaview, so Moa Point is tracking towards compliance, and Seaview, we've obviously experienced some issues and are dealing with those odour, the odour works and the dryer investment. Charles probably could talk specifically to the operational things that we're doing, but in terms of tracking the compliance, you also get those quarterly or monthly compliance reports that talk to the status of the various compliance of the plants. So not only are we leaning in with Veolia on that compliance, so is the board. And also around the projects that are sitting behind it to move us towards compliance, being the big ones like the dryer and the electrical at Moa Point.
By and large, all our projects are tracking on track. Probably the partially is I still would want more confidence that the operations of the plant are more consistent. If I look at some of the plants, they get operated differently shift by shift. And there should be no reason for that. So I'm just waiting before I can say with confidence. I'm looking for the investments which Veolia are manifestly making coming to fruition around the human resource that will start bringing some of those things into expected level. So there's nothing too concerning, but I would feel a bit bold saying everything is on track.
Do you want to move on to some of the other objectives that are partially achieved, Erin?
Absolutely. So the other one, if I work back bottom up, 3.3D. Yeah, bottom up. The management committee framework. We have done quite a bit of work around streamlining, and this really aligns to our organisational change. We're just going through another organisational change at the moment in one of our strategic groups, which feed into a lot of those management committees. And so once that has bedded in, we will have another go at our management committee. So that's why we're saying it's partially achieved. We still believe that there's more work to do. We're signalling we've done some. We will do more. The other one's 3.1D. Our big focus in this area has been on the technology systems investment program and making sure that we've got alignment between the organisational functions and our process framework. But our focus has really been in the technology systems and making sure we're putting what we can into that. We have done quite a bit of work, so that's why we're saying we're partially achieved, but we can't hold our hand and say we've fully implemented it. And so this is reflecting, as Charles talked about, until we see that auditable tracked evidence of us having achieved it, we will continue to show that this way. Pat talks to 3.1A in response to Councillor Brown's question around the asset management framework and the asset management policy. Unless there are any questions there, I'll move on to, we've talked around 2.1a and 2.2a previously as well, around the contracting and the demonstrating value for money.
Yes, I just feel like, for 2.1a, for example, you say that all projects in Q1 have been subject to commercial tenders with tension with open tenders via GETS. Like, if indeed all projects in Q1 have been through that process, then it would seem like we're doing really well against that measure, even despite the fact that Charles doesn't want to return to the panel immediately.
Yeah.
So the reality there is that there were some exceptions made because of the historical legacy of some projects, that to swap to a different supplier and re-tender it would have been a demonstrative waste of money, and there was commercial tension demonstrated in the procurement of it beforehand. So 100% of all of the projects weren't. I can hand on heart explain commercial tension, but I can't say that that was 100% achieved. It's only partially achieved because we're still tidying up the legacy of the previous years.
Just off the top of your head, you may not have the figure, but how many tenders were actually issued via GETS in the quarter?
I can get that for you. Not a huge amount, but they were not a huge number, but of a high value. Yeah. But I can get that for you, Ros. In fact, I know I've got it sitting on my desk because we just got it given it this morning, so it's easy for me to keep.
The other point to be made here is that it says establish clear benchmarks. You know, we do a lot of different types of work, and in some areas we won't have put that type of work out to competitive bid yet, so we don't necessarily have a benchmark for that size and that type of pipe, for example. So there is, while we are improving our understanding of the market, we're still a long way from fully understanding the full market, that's for sure. And one of the challenges here is that each year we've been doing less and less pipe renewals. 2 years ago we did 24k, last year we did 12, and this year we've got funding so far to do 5k. So we aren't getting prices for all sorts of pipe and all sorts of size ranges. So we don't have full benchmarking information yet.
Just on that, Kim, if I could just say, when there was some heat in the market last year, whenever it was, about the comparative pricing paid by Wellington Water for some of its work, and there was in some of the media publicity, there was comparisons made to what's paid in other parts of the country. And I saw a response to that. I don't know if it was you, Charles, or Pat. Somebody made a response, though, made the observation that there was an apples and oranges comparison to make, that there are, geographic specific and locational specific issues. I guess where I'm long-winded going is that I do think that the need for there to be both local benchmarking data as well as comparative data in respect of the national market with rationale will be required to keep the confidence of our community and stakeholders moving forward, and also just to I think improve for everybody that we've got similar things in our minds when we're talking about this important topic. Kia ora.
Thanks, Helmut. Any other questions on the report? No, just the final one. Just wondering, Pat, if you could comment, and this is sort of more of a general, I suppose, point or question that's been raised out there around the concern of work to market, the impact on contractors. I just wonder if you could address that general issue.
So there's two things happened. One is the councils are putting far more money into upgrading wastewater treatment plants and putting big money into big projects. Our total budgets didn't increase. So what's happened is that money that was going into pipe relaying has moved into treatment plants, and different sorts of contractors are doing the work. So that was the first thing that happened, and that's where I talked about 24K 2 years ago, 12K last year, and so far this year we've got funding for 5K. So there was an inevitable downturn. The other thing is that we have been slowly getting the work out. We haven't been allocating it to contractors. We've been, even if it's going to the panel, there's still been tension. They've been competing for work within the panel. And that's one of the things that Hutt City has raised with us and has been and has led the way. It's where we want some of the other councils to go as well, is to allocate funding that we don't think we'll spend this year into pipe renewals. And we're starting to get some work out fairly quickly in that space now. So that's where some of our contractors are feeling the squeeze. But we are moving as quickly as we can to get some more work out to the market. There will still be some competitive tension, but it'll mostly be within the panel itself. Because it's not in our interest to see these highly skilled contractors downsize or fold, and then in 2 or 3 years' time, as the funding starts to ramp up again, we don't have any of that homegrown expertise. So we are trying to keep work going, and we're also looking now at the water service delivery plan to see what sort of funding there is for pipe renewals over the following 2 or 3 years, to see what there is and what sort of plan we can have for that as well. So we are conscious of it, and we don't want to lose any more people from the Wellington region.
Thanks, Pat. I wonder if it'd be helpful to just have a paper or even just within your management update just around this, and just that approach that you're obviously taking with individual councils. I know the conversations are happening with the Hutt, but this is certainly, it has regional ramifications if we do see local contractors in that renewal space fold or downsize. So I think not asking for a big detailed report, but just for something to come through to that next meeting.
Yep, absolutely, we can do that. Yes.
Right. Thank you. So if there's no other questions, I know that was a little bit broader than what's in front of us. If there's none, we'll go to the recommendations, which is just to receive and note the progress report on the implementation of the improvement plan. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Connolly, any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Declare that carried. Moving through to questions. I've received no questions, so we go to our closing karakia. Please feel free to join me.
Oh, sorry. If I could just butt in for one moment. I think this was actually these are quarterly sessions, which are sort of designed around Wellington water reporting, based on sort of identified issues in the past. I just wonder if we actually need these things as regularly as we've now scheduled, and if it might be not reasonable to actually suggest that maybe Pat and Co don't need to report quite as regularly as they are doing at the present.
Well, thanks for that suggestion, Councillor Brown. I'll just remind you that the reason we're doing this is at the request of the Wellington City Council.
Yeah, I know.
So thank you. I think that's well received, and it can be considered by the new committee. I think so, and whoever chairs that committee can explore that. I think it's a good suggestion.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the closing karakia. So unihia e te uru tapunui, kia wātia, kia mama, tēnā kau, tina, te wairua e te ara takatū. Goia rea rongo, whakairi e aki, kia runga, kia wātia, ora, ko wātia, hau pamarie. Thank you, everyone. Declare the meeting closed at 2:37.